Hi, welcome back to Storytime with Ted Booker. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed Gods and More Gods, our previous book that we just finished. This is the newest book that I'm going to read today. You saw the cover in the intro, and this is Soleman, the HEELED Avenger, a shoe-based uh, kind of a detective in the vein of the Shadow, which is appropriate considering that most of the detectives were called gumshoes at one time. So we're going to start with Destiny Gets a Foothold, which is kind of the beginning of this. That starts in 3500 BCE. It's a long time ago, and this is kind of where Shoeman, his shoes come from. Razmik, the least auspicious of the mountain people, was sewing himself a pair of shoes. The thick fur and hard soles would protect his feet from stones and cold on the inhospitable mountain where his people dwelt. He needed some protection since he had been chosen to leave the mountain and seek out the enemies of the mountain people. A man known only as Karan and his people, Razmik had a long and dangerous climb down, not to mention the danger of meeting an enemy of legendary strength and guile. Razmik had neither of these gifts. He was a small man and not particularly brave, but he was steadfast in doing what was right and tenacious in doing what he must. Beside him lay his cloak, shield, and knife. They were his only protection for the coming adventure, needing only the shoes to be completed. As he used the small, thin shavings of iron to hold the soles to the rest, he heard the rumble of thunder. Razmik nervously entered the last of the iron and held the shoes aloft. He honored the gods with his work and prayed for their success and protection. His answer arrived in a bolt of lightning that struck both man and shoes. The shoes glowed from the strike. The fur burnt away, leaving the charred leather clean and smooth. It also strengthened them and turned them into a deep, lustrous black. He gazed around himself, surprised that he was unharmed, save that the lightning had burnt away the hair from his wrist to his elbow in the shape of a bolt of lightning. He slipped on the shoes, and his body glowed with power. His muscles grew and rippled, and he was infused with strength and endurance. He flung the cloak over his shoulders and picked up the shield and knife. His shoulders squared as he set out from his humble shack, determined to meet his destiny or perish in the attempt. He confidently marched down the mountain. 3475 BCE. In the orange haze of a setting sun, and the dust swirled from a gust of arid wind, blocking its meager light. The dimming glow signaled that the day was almost complete. Crawling painfully on all fours, an old man hauled himself along a jutted mountain path. He cursed the pain, but fought his way forward, wheezing as he breathed in the dry air. His hands and knees and most of his body were covered in cuts and sores, indicating he had been in many battles. He inched closer to his destination at the end of a long and winding track. An hour passed, and Razmik was almost at his uninspiring destination. His simple wooden rounded hut, around 15 feet wide. It was basic. The only access was the sole opening that led inside. Razmik could see the flicker of a flame as he crawled up the single step and threw his body inside. Home at last, he lay motionless for about half an hour, exhausted and near death. Razmik removed his shoes, his only remaining precious cargo, and placed them neatly on a stone ledge by a roaring fire. Razmik closed his eyes, content that he had at last accomplished his mission, and the mountain people were safe at last. With a final gasp, he stopped breathing. Finally at peace, Razmik lay by the fire in his tatty and dirty robes. A shallow light radiated from the hole in the roof that let the smoke escape from the fire. It then consumed Razmik, who slowly vanished. The fire abruptly extinguished as the hut faded out of existence. Any indication that the hut once stood at that particular point were dissipated. There was nothing to ever prove that a hut had once stood there, except for a pair of size 9 shoes sitting on a stone ledge. 2500 BCE. 25 years 25-year-old shepherd Allen was herding some sheep up a long and winding dirt track. It was mid-afternoon, and the blazing, unforgiving sun felt like it was melting his head. Even through his makeshift hood, the intense heat was intolerable. Allen needed a rest. He was weary and dehydrated. On his belt, Allen removed a small pouch of water, and for some mystical reason he felt an urge to sit on a particular group of rocks by the track, which had a little stone ledge amongst them. Allen thought it was a little odd that this smooth stone ledge was here in the middle of nowhere, but he decided he was too thirsty to care. He slumped greedily and greedily gulped several mouthfuls until he felt a little better. Up in the mountains, you had to spare your fluids, and placed his water pouch on the stone ledge. What surprised him most was a pair of jet black shoes that suddenly appeared next to his pouch. Allen looked around. He was sure the ledge had been unoccupied when he first sat down. He scanned the area for anyone else. There was no one. Allen gingerly picked up and examined the shoes. They looked brand new. Instantly he felt a connection, a magnetic pull that was so strong he became lightheaded. A few moments later, kicking off his old, well-worn sandals, Allen heeded to a powerful inspiration and slipped his feet into what felt like the world's most comfortable shoes. Allen stood with renewed enthusiasm, energy, and a profound sense of justice. A flow of light filled his body as the sole of the shoes integrated into Allen's soul. The shoes had a strong power for good, and they infused his soul with their power. Leaving the sheep to fend for themselves, he headed back to the village. There had been much injustice done, and now was time for those who caused so much pain to pay for their evil ways. However, 3500 BCE. To maintain balance, nature couldn't help but counter the weight. It created an opposite power so awful that the wearer would be equally cruel. And this wearer had just crawled on all fours, not up a mountain track, but deep into an underground cave system. The man looked as if he had been in a ferocious fight. Karen, dressed in dirty, ripped robes, was exhausted and near death. In his time, he had worked a great deal of destruction. He had an evil expression and grinned when he reached the flames in the middle of a small 15-foot cave. He lay by the side of it, removed his dark, reeking boots, and placed them on a smooth piece of stone. The fire died and dissipated until Karen went with it. All that was left was a pair of size 9 boots that absolutely stank. 2500 BCE. Tennille was running fast. The huge man chasing him was brandishing a very sharp knife and had a look of how to use it. Tennille was running out of steam. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, but the huge man was maintaining the chase. How he was a complete mystery to Neil, but he had to keep running. If he stopped, the shopkeeper will kill him. Neil clutched onto the loaf of bread he had stolen and dug deep. The shopkeeper was inexplicably gaining. Neil had to think fast. He saw a crop of rocks to his left and diverted. A weird calling affected his mind. He reached the rocks, and just as the huge shopkeeper was about to plunge a knife through the back, Tennille fell into a hole and disappeared into a dark network of caves. The shopkeeper, excuse me. The shopkeeper grunted, hung around for a while until he felt satisfied that the thieving scoundrel had fallen to his death. Tennille screamed as he slid down a smooth rock face that gently curved and slowed his descent, until finally Tennille hit the hard surface and rolled into the middle of a cave. A stream of light from a hole in the rocks above allowed enough light to penetrate the rocks, and they shone directly onto a pair of boots. Tennille, for reasons he just didn't understand, put them on and felt a surge of darkness run through his body. He went in search of the shopkeeper who had hunted him. He would pay dearly for his insolence, and in fact, all the people of the village would pay. Not one would survive if he had his say. So began the everlasting battle between good souls and bad souls, Soleman and Big Toe, battling it out over centuries, passing down the power of the souls to the next generation, until finally there was a deciding factor. Soulman, the chosen soul, hero to the downtrodden, savior of those underfoot, and friend to those whom others have stepped on. So that's it for this chapter. The next one is A New Hero is Born. So, hope you like this. I hope you'll be intrigued enough to come back for the next reading. I look forward to seeing you. So until then, I know this has been short, but it'll get longer. In the meantime, I'm working just to let you know what's happening. This book's done. It's published. It will be, hopefully, I'll have my own copy soon. But my next book is the second rendition of The Sheriff in a Small Town. I'm working on the next book 2. So probably when we're done with this one, we'll slide right into that. I'm already about a third of the way through, so it's not going to take long. So that's it for today. I look forward to seeing you again on our next reading. And until then, be good and get yourself. Bye-bye.